I want to welcome everybody to GLREA's Michigan Solar Story tonight. This is our first solar story of 2023, and I want to welcome all of our GLREA members and any members of the public that joined us for this evening. We're very honored to have Brett Little of the Green Home Institute make a presentation about his home and all the work he has done on his home to make it more net zero energy or zero net carbon. I've had the pleasure of working with Brett and the Green Home Institute the last 3 years on various events, educating people about how to make your home, net zero. And Brett's going to explain all this. And so I've always enjoyed working with Brett and look forward to working with him this year. So we're going to do the usual program where Brett will give a presentation, 20, 25 minutes, however long, and then we'll open up for questions. I also want to thank all of our sponsors, the Michigan Department of Environmental, Great Lakes and Energy, Homeland Solar, McNaughton and McKay Electric Company, Iron Ridge Racking, and Harvest Solar. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brett, and welcome to GLREA Michigan Solar Story, Brett.
Hey, it's good to be back, and happy New Year, and thanks, John, for having us out. And my name's Brett Little. I'm the education manager here at the nonprofit, the Green Home Institute. We have been around almost 25 years now, headquartered in West Michigan. Our mission is to empower people to make healthier and more sustainable choices in the places we live. And, this is going to be my specific personal story, but kind of through the lens of, some of the things we try to do to help people make their homes better. I want to make this a little bit an informal conversation. So I'm looking at the chat here. And so if anybody, wants to ask a question as we're going, you're not going to bother me. I'll be trying to look at that chat there and try to answer questions as we go. So feel free to do that, or just jump in between pauses if you'd like. So I just want to be, let you all know what I'm really excited mostly about my project is the strategy in which I used to fund it. I think it's a much more approachable funding source to everyone in Michigan and our country than a lot of other funds out there. And so obviously at the time I got really lucky. I was planning my project all the way back in 2018, and I didn't actually implement my project until right as the pandemic got started. So, perfect timing. But at that time, mortgage rates had collapsed. And so I got really lucky in that sense. And so I used a construction loan refinance on my house. So anybody who's got equity built into their house, whether they're a homeowner or a landlord, unfortunately not a renter, so this I guess doesn't help renters, can refinance your house. And if you've got good equity built up, good credit, and you want to bring in some other funding sources, you don't even need other funding sources, which I didn't use any. You could potentially put on solar, do batteries like I did, and do a full green home retrofit like I did. Now mortgage rates are back up again, but I still like to compare them to where they were, a decade ago. They're still low. And so I've originally looked at something called the Green Choice Mortgage through Freddie Mac. And so that actually allows you to do solar and other things on your home, and they just make it easier. United Bank of Michigan is the only bank that I know of in the state of Michigan that is using this program. We're trying to get other banks to use it. I'm only mentioning their name because when I asked them to take on this program, which was not easy and they had to pay to do it, they did it. They listened and they did it. And I think I was still their only customer. Not only that, but I actually ended up not using Freddie Mac Green Choice and did a full traditional construction loan because Freddie Mac Green Choice only let me borrow about half of what I needed to do my project. So I ended up using a traditional construction loan that any bank can use, mortgage lender can use. So that's really the message, that I want to get out there, is that these resources are available to everybody. And we want to help you be able to talk to your lender and your appraiser to be able to do this. My appraiser came in, they did a green evaluation of my home. and they were able to add 3% more value, which allowed me to borrow more money to pay for the solar and the batteries and some other green features. And how that worked was that, first of all, it took some conversation, it took some interest. I had to, I had to do a little bit of work around with the bank to get the appraiser I wanted, but we did it. And that's the second time I've done that. I've greened another home back in 2016, but no solar. Anyway, I got the appraiser that I wanted, and they came in, they looked, and I got lucky. I got the appraiser I wanted, and then I just had sheer luck. What had happened is they noticed there were 3 other homes that had solar within my immediate vicinity, and they had all either refinanced or recently sold. So that's called a comparable. Without a comparable, appraisers are lost. They're like, I don't even know what's going on. I have they're just clueless, right? No offense to appraisers. That's how they legally have to operate. So there were comparables, and then they saw that my home got Pearl Platinum certified. Sorry. And they were able to use that. And then they did some sort of crazy calculation that included it included the solar and the cost of oil and the cost of gold and everything, and they were able to give me a 3% bump because of that. So again, it sounds pretty crazy, but we're trying to get more people to do this so that it just becomes a normal thing. So the question is, how did I get Pearl? And I'm going to get into that actually right now. So thank you for that question, Susan. So that's my financing story, and I've got some more information on and I should post a link here to my project on all the details on my home, and then you can see a whole write-up I did on the financial piece, which I think I did a year or so ago on this. I focused mostly on that the last time I was here with you all. So you can catch that one in the recording too. So anyway, so anytime we talk about improving the sustainability of your home, we always talk about the home energy efficiency pyramid. And so the best thing to do, even before even before you think about solar, is to make sure you've done all these other things to the extent that you can first. Because first of all, they're going to have more energy savings for less money than solar. And last time I checked, solar doesn't directly make you more comfortable or more healthy. It could make you indirectly more healthy by reducing coal plant emissions and all that, but that takes a long time. So these things are going to make you better, your home better. And I'm sorry to say this to all the solar people, but solar is the last thing you ever want to do. But hey, if you're here to talk about solar, I'm here to talk about that as well. Hey, I see a massive question in here, so I'm unfortunately cannot read this. So if you could put it down to just 2 sentences, I will then try to answer it. But thank you for asking that. Otherwise, I'll get to it later. So the first thing you want to do is get an understanding of what's going on in your home. So you want to look at your utility bills. Here's my utility data on the top over the last course of the year, right? Now that's including, I'm 100% electric. I have 0 gas, 0 combustion, no wood, no propane, no fossil fuels directly. I'm 100% electric. So you'll notice that. And then you'll also notice my electric bills are massive. That's because I also have a hybrid electric car that we mostly use every day. So between those 2 things, I have huge electric bills, no gas bill, and a very low energy bills for my vehicle, or for my for gas bills for the car. On the bottom here is my hourly emissions, and I want to get into that a little bit later. This is over the course of last year. I've been tracking hour per hour where my energy is being used the most. And that's important to think about, because we need to not only think about how much energy we're using, but also when we're using energy, so we can reduce carbon on the grid and cost. Because now DTE is pushing all of you into time of use. Consumers ironically did that to us in June of 2021, right around the same time I was volunteering to join. They're like, hey, you're being forced in. So that was really interesting timing for me. But and then The other thing is you want to get an understanding of the square footage of your home. And so you take that plus your energy bills and you get an energy use intensity. And you can do that through the Energy Star program. Now they do single family homes. You can score your home 0 through 100 on their website, on EPA's website, and get a sense for how energy efficient your home is. You might also want to consider installing a Sense solar monitor, or an Emporium, or one of the other types of monitors. If you're doing solar, this is good timing to have your electrician just throw one of these in. I did not do that. I opted out of it because my battery does a lot of this, not to this level, but it gets pretty close. But I do kick myself for not installing one of these. That is one of the things I wish I had done, because this gives you plug load data and you get a good sense of where you're using energy. And especially if you're all electric, you're getting all the energy there. It doesn't monitor gas. So that's another thing, you know, you want to take a look at before you even get started. This is just giving you an understanding, you know, of where your energy is. Then you want to receive a home energy audit or a green home inspection through the federal government's new Inflation Reduction Act. You could potentially get your home inspection credited back to you in your taxes of at least 30% of the cost of that inspection, or up to $150. There's a really nice link I'm going to post here about all the IRA benefits that currently exist for you to improve your home. That would include something called the Red Door of Truth, or a blower door test. And hopefully you'll get something called a Department of Energy Home Energy Score, which we can help you get as well. Now, back to that question about Pearl, this is what I did. I got this energy audit done, and then I went through and did a bunch of improvements to my home that I'm going to talk about, and then was able to receive the Pearl Platinum rating. But the first thing I needed to do was get the audit done to understand what I can do to get to Pearl, which includes this home energy score, and then had to have the work done and then retest my home afterwards to then get the energy data I needed for Pearl, which my home ended up becoming a 10 on the rating system. So 10 out of 10 as well. And then, of course, low-hanging fruit, just the basic things. LED light bulbs, pipe wraps, smart meters, foam, caulking, duct sealing, all those real simple things. A lot of them you can do yourself. Passive solar is something you might want to consider if you're building a new home. Not much you can do with an existing home, but we know many homeowners who are building new or doing major renovations, they have passive solar. And so that basically means they can heat their home in many cases from the sun passively in many times throughout the winter and without needing heat. Many of our builders that we're working with are doing that, like Jake from Our Value Homes or Michael Clement over in Ann Arbor. And then it keeps the heat out in the summertime and doesn't overheat the house, having you to have to run your AC as well. I didn't do much with passive. In fact, my house is awful for passive solar. I just get beat up there. Not much I could do. And then for appliances, you know, picking Energy Star certified appliances, looking for new Inflation Reduction Act dollars to help you switch over to a condensing dryer or a heat pump dryer is going to save a lot of energy and carbon. If you saw the news, using gas to cook, very unsafe, especially for kids, 12% cause of asthma on average, and just very bad stuff. Also, induction is the most energy efficient way to cook. And people who love cooking on gas are moving to induction because it's better. And so it's going to save you, you know, a lot of energy. And Jay here is saying there are geothermal dryer appliances. I have never heard of that, Jay, but thank you. Maybe you can share a link to one of those because I've heard of the solar powered dryer. That's where you simply hang your clothes outside on the line. It's you know, very cheap. I don't think you get a tax credit for that either. So, but and then next on the energy efficiency pyramid is heating your water. And so I have a heat pump water heater in my house. The one I have is Rheem. Now you can get $2,000 back from the federal government tax credit. Consult with your tax advisor, of course, for installing one of these. I just heard that the average cost is about $4,000, so you get about half of that back. These things take in heat from the air in our house and then use it through a refrigerant system, just like a refrigerator, air conditioning in reverse, and then heat your home as well, or heat the water in the house in the water heater up to 400% energy efficiency. And so I swapped out my gas water heater. In fact, it was failing in 2018, and I got so excited. I'm like, yes, and it's gonna die. So I put one of these in, and it's the best to do it. And this is the future of water heating here. So again, up to $2,000, and I can control it with my phone. I can monitor the energy use on it, and you can set it to a time of use program so that's not running during those peak load times, and especially in the summer when you're getting charged more and when the grid has more carbon on it. Next thing, pretty easy stuff, right? Air sealing up your house. There's money for that, $1,600 or 30% of the cost back from the Inflation Reduction Act. So stopping that air leak makes you more comfortable, makes you healthier, stops humidity problems in your home. That's what the red door of truth, the blower door, is going to help you figure out when you get that energy audit done, hopefully soon here. And then while you're air sealing, then you want to then insulate your house, right? You want to do insulation, whatever might be missing. We want to insulate homes from top to bottom. Every home is different. So you get that energy auditor out there. They help you figure out what you can do, what's most cost effective. They do the energy score with you and help you figure that out. And again, there's money available for that from the Inflation Reduction Act as well. And then once you do that, you can start, and sorry, I'm reusing a PowerPoint I did from a presentation at a home show this weekend, so ignore some of this stuff. But once you do that, you can put in heating and cooling. And one thing I'll say, I'll go back, my house was built in 2003, so it already had a really good air seal, a really good insulation strategy on it. The builder built above the code at the time, so I got lucky. I wasn't involved in that. So I didn't have to do much. I already had 4 air changes per hour, which already meets today's building code. Could be better. We can always do better, but I mean, I had already done everything I could there. So that was one thing I didn't need to invest in. But anyway, heating, cooling. So basically we need to make all of our heating electric. And so there's 2 ways to do that. The first one is an air source heat pump. So that's me with my Mitsubishi Hyperheat system. And I've been using that since 2020. It's gotten me through 2 massive cold spells, working perfectly, taking heat out of the air and turning it into energy and heating my house. Even, when it was 6 degrees this Christmas and I was getting really nervous, didn't have one problem. And again, I didn't get any money for this, but now you all can, up to $2,000 from the Inflation Reduction Act, maybe $500 from consumers or DTE, give or take. And next year, for low to moderate income, there might be $8,000 for one of these devices. If you're too afraid to go all electric, that's okay. You can do a dual fuel approach. You can use this for the air conditioning system because it's also an air conditioning system. It's not just a heater that works in reverse. And so you can use it for an AC, and then you can use it until the temperature gets down to 30 degrees, and then it can switch over to gas. Or propane or whatever you're using. If you're too nervous to go fully electric, I understand. So you can take that sort of baby step dual fuel approach as well. And then, of course, geothermal. There's no one who can argue that geothermal isn't the most energy efficient way to heat and cool our homes on the planet. There is now a 30% tax deduction for that. You have to have a tax liability, consult your advisor. But these are just some of the different ways. They might put the loop systems in the ground at your house, depending on how it's set up. It could go bore vertically down, which is more expensive, or across as well. And then from there, you want to look at windows. Windows don't save any energy at all for the most part. Windows really are only something you want to look at if you've got a gaping hole and there's air blowing in. That's one of the last things you want to do. Even sometimes I would argue solar makes a lot more sense than windows do. Just depends. So if you're getting new windows, look for ones that have a very low U factor. And then solar heat gain coefficient you want to look at depending on where the window is located and how much sun it gets, so you don't overheat your house or underheat your house as well. If you have an existing home, you can just put an interior storm called an indoor window. You can do it yourself. You can measure your windows, make an order, then pop it in. And those are much cheaper than existing windows or new windows. And, they save up to 10% in air leakage reduction, and have other energy efficiency benefits as well. And then lastly, solar. So there's now a 30% tax deduction. There's a picture of my little 3.96 kW system, which is currently really covered in snow. Here's how much solar I produced last year. So it gives me sort of an average of about 0.36 megawatt hours a month. In total, that's 4.29 megawatt hours, which is right on track with the green panel, what they told us we'd be using. We're like pretty much right on what they said we would be using. It's a little less than 2021. 2021 was a really sunny year. So that was that was helpful. And then I also have a battery, but this is my accountant for our organization, and he also put in a solar and battery. So I love to show him off. And again, now this year you can get the 30% tax deduction on the battery system, which is something I highly recommend, because if you didn't know it, solar is kind of useless when the power goes out. It has to shut off. So you want to have a battery system so you can keep using power. Plus, now what I do with my battery is I set it up so that it keeps me off of the 2 to 7 window in the summertime, which helps keep my energy bills lower by staying off of that peak time. And so I wanted to kind of shift real quick over to sharing that with you all as well. So this is a company called Watt Carbon that we're working with. They're just getting started, and you can upload all of your data to Watt Carbon, and then it will tell you again how much, when you're using energy across the year and how carbon intense that energy was as well. And one thing I really like is it kind of gives the fuel mix as well, so you can get a sense of where your energy is coming from. This is what we're predicting it'll be in 2023 here in Michigan. And I know they're doing some updates right now, so it's missing some information here. And then also it kind of gives you your monthly energy use, and then it tries to forecast. This is a mistake here because I used community's solar renewable energy credits from Consumers Energy that I bought. So I accidentally packed those all into these 2 months here, December and October. So I have to fix that, but it made me look like I was net zero, but I really wasn't. And so this is pretty cool because, again, it will tell you what your carbon intensity was, how much carbon you used, and then you can purchase carbon offsets to go zero carbon. And so I haven't done that yet. I promised everybody I would, and I still haven't done it yet. I'm trying to find carbon offsets that actually match my hour for hour load on our grid, because that way the offset is actually matching when I'm using energy, and that way it's a true offset. We're also looking at offsets to help low income people get heat pump water heaters and other things to help their homes in Grand Rapids. So I'm looking at directly purchasing from that program so I can help people out, cut their carbon emissions. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of my story here. So, happy to help answer any questions or see what I see. There's some lively discussion here. So, yeah.
Well, if folks have questions, why don't you raise your hand and we'll call upon you, or Brett can look at folks in the chat.
I see one question about contacting me for purchasing a house. So yeah, brett.little@greenhomeinstitute.org, and we can get you or anyone else set up with a green home inspection. I can even post a link to that here in a second for you. So and that helps. That also takes a look at solar opportunities and other things too. So
we have a question from Lee. Go ahead, Lee.
Yeah, when I looked at the heat pump units, I had a problem with the sacrificial cathode that's in it.
Mm-hmm.
I have the water I have that if I use a magnesium anode, I get the rotten egg smell out of the water.
Yeah.
And so I always have to switch to the aluminum zinc.
Yeah.
And when I checked with the manufacturer, they said that would void their warranty.
Which manufacturer was that?
One of the earlier ones, Ream maybe.
Oh, okay. That sounds right. I think Bradford White has some sort of, and their manufacturer right here in Michigan, some sort of new antimicrobial thing that helps avoid that, is my understanding. So you might want to check with them.
What company was that?
Bradford White.
Okay.
They're headquartered right here in Michigan.
Yep, I got it. Thank you.
Other questions for Brett?
There's a question about my email. I'm just going to post it here for y'all. There it is.
Brett, did you explain how someone gets Pearl certified? That was an early question by Susan.
Yeah, so basically all those things that I did to my house. So Pearl is what we call a prescriptive energy rating program. So you have to do a bunch of energy efficiency things to your house. They have a good, better, best approach, Pearl certified, Pearl silver, gold, and platinum, kind of like LEED. So you just do more things and you get better. And there's not really there's a point system, again, like LEED. So again, I just did all this energy stuff to my house, and then I was able to get platinum. But there are Pearl certifiers out there who can assist you, if you want to achieve that.
So you just call them up and start a conversation. They'll come over to your house and.
Yeah, like over here on this side of the state, West Michigan Glass Block sort of runs the show. And then on the other side of the state, Detroit area, it's Amanda Goddard with Eco Intelligent Homes. I think she's the Pearl rep over there. Those two agent entities, from what I can tell. Oh, and then maybe Mark Lee down in Kalamazoo. They all kind of run the show on those kinds of things. So.
Okay.
I personally work directly with Pearl because we were using this as a case study for them. So I cheated a little bit, but.
Sure. Susan, you have a follow-up? Go ahead. Susan, I think you're on mute, maybe.
Yeah, I can't hear you, Susan. If you want to type it.
Yeah, you should be good now, Susan. Maybe not.
Jay, I see your question about the Novi show. I haven't been there in a decade. I should probably go, but I won't be there this time. So that would be a good time, though. But remind me next time.
Bummer. My wife and I will be there. We were looking to do that.
That's got to be someone, pretty cool out there. So if I hear of anyone out there, I'll let you know who to talk to. So
why don't we go to Dave Curtis first, and we'll come back to Susan.
Hello. Thank you, Brett, for your presentation. It's very interesting. One of my questions is that it seems that DTE and probably consumers as well try to make you not get solar that outpaces the capacity of the equipment that you're using. So that means to me, in my offhanded manner, that I should go for whatever furnace replacement, air conditioning, whatever, electric car, all of the stuff that I might want to be considering before I ever start doing the solar investigation. Is that right?
You make a really good point. So, people have reached out to us and they've said, we want more solar. We can't get more solar. So the solution is to electrify everything. So the more electric you can go, the more solar you can get more electric cars, add it all in. Yeah, obviously, if you get that and then wait a year to get all the data, you can show them, hey, here, I have this need. What I did, though, is I just showed them my energy model, and I showed them the load that I was increasing to by putting in a heat pump. They were a little confused at first, but they've heard this story before. So eventually they're like, okay, we'll let you have it. So So, you can go that way as well if you want to do it all in one big project, but otherwise, the way you say it, electrify first, and then you can add more solar. So, oh, Susan here. Mark Lee did my house, working on the installation, did the blower door, energy savings down by 40%. I have Geo. I asked him for Pearl, but he didn't respond. Yeah, I keep bugging him. I know he's just out there doing amazing work. Clearly, he did some amazing work for you. So, he's just out there doing the work, and we appreciate everything Mark Lee's doing. And I think asking him to do certification and paperwork probably isn't so exciting for him. So I know he's got more staff. Keep bugging him, but very cool to hear, Susan, that you worked with him and did all that. So.
Another question from Lee.
Yeah, do you think there's a chance, based on your experience with the bankers, that we might be able to have some legislation that says when a house is sold, it has to include a door house test, or a door test, or maybe there has to be a summary of the energy needs, and then when you initially write a brand new mortgage, you can actually have some money set aside to make improvements that have been identified by the realtor?
Yeah, keep your eyes on Ann Arbor. They could be passing that law any minute now, is what what I've been told for the last 2 years. But, they've got a lot of momentum going, and they are going to be passing a home disclosure law, I hope, which will require those things. And Grand Rapids has now, I think, publicly stated interest in that too. So I'm sure Ann Arbor will beat them to it. But between those two things, now, whether we could ever get that into state law, that would be interesting, but certainly now is the time, if ever, to try. So
Jay,
and if you have
question?
friends that are realtors, they won't be your friends anymore if you try. So just letting you know. But
Jay, do you have another question?
Yeah. Well, first I'll comment about the realtors. If you're interested in buying a house, you tell your realtor that you want to go and see X number of months worth of electric and fuel bills from the seller, or I won't consider buying the house. And it's amazing how those records will show up. The seller wants to sell, and they'll come through with the data, so you get an idea of what the house is using. But I was going to say, don't let DTE or consumers dictate to you ever what you can or cannot put on your house in the way of solar. Deploy as much solar as you wish. Don't enter into a contract with them. Set your inverters for no export and put all your money into batteries. Have enough batteries to run your house for 3 to 5 days with no solar, no sun. That'll get you through some of these days we've been having recently. But the point being, become more and more independent of the grid with your own batteries. You're putting all of your excess energy into the batteries and running off of those at night. And you start approaching an off-grid home, and you've got enough capacity of solar panels. It all boils down to surface area. The more surface area of solar panels you have, the better off you're going to be. But never ever let the power company dictate to you how much solar power you can put on your home.
Sounds great. Other questions for Brett or comments? Once, twice?
Yeah, I was trying to dig up my my profile, but it looks like our website is slowly going down. So, but it still works for the most part. But the blog is missing, so I want to post that also. You can just see what I've been doing. But we'll be doing a YouTube series, and I know I've been saying this for 2 years and still haven't done it. Kind of shoemaker shoe syndrome. We'll be doing a YouTube series on my house and following up with everything. And I'm always posting data quite a bit on LinkedIn. So if you are on LinkedIn, you can follow me there too. I'm always posting new information about what I'm doing, and I'd always love to hear what you're up to. Here's a little more information on my project too. So I'm hoping to update that soon. So.
Yeah, and if Brett, if you email me when you have new information that you can publicly share, just let me know, and I can put it in a newsletter to our membership with links to it. So
yeah, and maybe I'll come back and talk again. But yeah. Oh, and I had to make a plug for the Solar UpNet work, which I think you're going to have on, right, John?
Yeah, yeah. There's a Solarize meeting occurring on February 16th. And it's being organized by a couple of activists in Holland, Michigan. It's all for West Michigan. This is the group buy program that GLREA is working, and we're working with Don and Peter from Holland, Michigan. This is a group buy program where we educate people about solar. We have a solar installer talk about the process to get solar. And if more than 3 people agree to sign a contract, then the installer will give an additional discount on the purchase of solar. And that, of course, is on top of the 30% investment discount, investment tax credit that's currently available. So that's on February 16th at 7 o'clock. It will be on Zoom, and I will be posting information about that very soon, this weekend, early next week. So keep a lookout for it. Lee, you got final comment or question?
Well, it's about his house. His panels go slightly above the ridge of the house. And I've run into building inspectors that won't allow that. Did you have a special dispensation for that height?
Oh, I just live somewhere where they probably don't even know. I mean, I was like, can you just put the solar all the way around the edge? I don't even think they'll know. And they told me they wouldn't do that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure they just don't know about it around here. I'll leave it at that. So is there something I should be concerned about?
The firemen say they want to be able to chop a hole in the peak to let the air come out of the hot air come out of the house.
Yeah.
And they see that as an obstruction to their normal practice.
They'll do it on the north side of the peak if the solar panels are in the way.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So is that a good argument to make?
Knowing a number of firemen who I've discussed this with, they all say that's not a big issue for them. They're going to chop a hole right through a solar panel if they have to.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but normally, once you've installed your system, before you can turn it on, you have to have it be inspected by the local community. So they would probably more often than not catch that if it was a problem. So I would be careful. Brett lives on the edge, which is great, you know.
And I just trusted the green panel that they did good work, and I still trust that they do and that they did the right thing. And so, you know, but I'm always trying to learn. So thanks for letting me know.
Sure. Okay. Any other final questions or comments? Okay. Well, thank you so much, Brett. This has been very enlightening. We really appreciate you coming back, and we look forward to having you on in the future. And like I said earlier, GLREA works with the Green Home Institute to put on various events throughout the year. And so, you know, when I send out a newsletter talking about an event that Brett is taking the lead on, and we want to encourage GLREA members to attend, now you know who the man is behind the curtain, you know, for these events. And we really appreciate the collaboration between the two organizations. So thank you once again. And let me just quickly